NVR3 overview. My name is Adrian Garcia, and I will be presenting with my co-hosts, Joe Hudak and Joe McCarthy. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We'll spend about an hour talking a little bit about our NVR3 and all of the basic features. If you attended our previous session earlier this morning, in which we covered some of the more advanced features and some of the newer available features on the latest release, if not, then we'll be sending out an email with a recording of the webinar, and we'll be also scheduling new events on the coming weeks. If you do have any questions during our presentation, please feel free to post them on the Q&A section that we have, and let's begin. So let me start by introducing the agenda for today. We have a brief introduction of our company and our unified solution, as well as our licensing model. Then we'll jump into our NVR3 overview. We'll cover a little bit of the differences between software versus standalone servers. We'll also go into our product line for the GNR and the INR series, which use our NVR3 Corporate Edition. And then finally, we're going to go ahead and introduce a live demo of the NVR3 Corporate for you to understand a little bit more of the capabilities of our system. Like I said, if you do have any questions during the presentation, please post them on the Q&A section, and we'll make sure to address them towards the end of the presentation. Okay, so let's begin with a brief introduction about our company, and I'll let Joe Hudak and Joe McCarthy to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about the company.
Adrian, can you hear me?
Yeah, Joe.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. My name is Joe McCarthy. I am the Business Development Manager for the Eastern region for ACTi. A little bit about our company. If you don't know, we've been in business for 17 years doing nothing but IP video. I think as far as companies that only do IP video, we are one of the oldest in the industry. We offer a unified solution of both cameras as well as a VMS software and NVRs. And along with that, we have additional items like analytics and a CMS and video vault servers and things that will be discussed and presented on future sessions. But for now, we want to do a brief review of our NVR3 VMS platform, and from there, I'll let Adrian take it over.
Well, we're waiting for Adrian to pick up. This is Joe Hudak, Director of Sales for ACTi. Thank you all for attending today. I just want to also remind everybody at the end of this presentation, available for you will be a demo website that you'll be able to actually go on and use for demos with your customers. If you're interested in a free demo of the software, please feel free to contact Joe McCarthy, myself, or Adrian, and we can help you with that as well. And finally, if you are working on any projects that you need assistance for, all three of us are available for you to help make recommendations in regards to product, and also to register the project for you so that you can be offered best pricing on the projects. Adrian, are you still there? Or we lost you?
Yes, sir.
No. All right. If you wouldn't mind advancing to the next slide, I can take that one for you too.
Okay. Cool.
One of the most common questions that we get asked at ACTi is, are you guys restricted because of the NDAA policy issued by the U.S. government back in August 2019? For those of you that aren't aware, ACTi's worldwide headquarters is actually in Taipei, Taiwan. So we actually, one slide too fast, Adrian, if you could go back one slide for me. Thank you. What you'll see is that we are compliant with the NDAA compliancy that was released, also known as the John McCain Act, that restricted where government funding can spend their money on surveillance equipment, and limited the field where it required that the product not be coming or sourced from China. Again, Joe, myself, or Adrian are available to help you with that if you have any questions. You'll also find more information about that on our website from our banner. The banner that you see there, if you just click on it, it'll have a link to the actual act. and then our policy on the NDAA policy as well to help move you forward. And with that, Adrian will introduce you to our unified solution and then move us into the NVR. Thanks, Adrian.
All right. Thank you, Joe. ACTi has a unified solution that incorporates a lot of different products and solutions into one single platform. So we have our NVR3 product that can be applied to a software or a standalone server. You can have that scaled up from hundreds of channels all the way to thousands of channels in a very scalable and centralized solution using our CMS server. And then we do have different client applications, either workstation clients or mobile clients as well. And we have surrounding products such as our public view monitoring stations in the TV wall server, as well as different options for redundancy and backup and failover. So all of these components play very well together. They've been highly integrated, all of them. And we will be focusing today only on the NVR3. So if you go into our website, you'll find different webinar sessions that we'll be hosting through the next couple of weeks. So please join us to the other sessions if you want to learn about these other products. Today we will be focusing on the NVR3. And before we jump into that, let's talk a little bit about licensing, since that's one of the key differentiators of our VMS software versus our competitors. Joe, do you want to give a brief introduction about the licensing?
Which Joe were you asking for, Adrian?
Both will work. I'm sure
okay.
Both will do a great job explaining it.
I'll go ahead and take it. This is Joe Hudak. For those of you that have worked with ACTi in the past, you know that our licensing makes it easy, affordable for you and for your end user to use. For those of you that haven't had the experience of working with our NVRs, the one big constant complaint that we hear from the field in regards to the industry is, well, actually two. First, I'm having to pay a renewal fee every year for my licenses for my cameras. I already own the software. Why do I have to pay for a renewal fee with my software and my licenses? The second thing that we hear from a lot of the technicians is, as they work with other platforms, when they need to change out a camera, it becomes a challenge because they need to contact the technical support of that company to have them reissue or release a license. So ACTi decided to make it really easy for the budget and for the technicians. Once you purchase our NVRs, you purchase our license, there's no reoccurring fees. You will get your updates, you will get your tech support year after year on the platform. And what we recommend to our customers is that as they advance their system, obviously there'll be a chance for additional cameras, additional coverage that they use that freed up budget to accommodate those needs. In respects to the licenses themselves and how they're used, we do not tie to a MAC address. We do not tie to an IP address. So if a customer decides to upgrade, change out a camera for whatever reason, all their technician has to do is go into our system, simply delete it. The license will become available again. They go ahead and add the new camera in, and the NVR will actually issue that license to that camera that they add to the system. Of course, our tech support people always love to hear from our customers, but there's really no need to have to call in to talk to them. The technicians can quickly change and upgrade cameras with licenses if need be. And from there, Adrian will start talking us into the actual product itself. So thank you, Adrian.
All right, thank you, Joe Hudak. All right, so let's jump into getting more details about the NVR3. We do have two different options when it comes to product selection. We can go with either the software or the standalone server. So let's review some of the advantages or the differences between using one versus the other. So with the software, you can build your own hardware. You can scale it up to 200 channels. We do have two editions, the enterprise and the corporate. We will review those later. But both of them can be scaled up to 200 licenses, and you can purchase these licenses as you need. They do have bundled licenses with the software version. So again, we will cover a little bit more on the details on that later. And you will be responsible of testing the hardware and the operating system of the server if you do choose the software only. And the support in terms of the hardware and operating system will have to come from your hardware vendor supplier. Now, the difference is if you decide to go with our standalone servers, that becomes a turnkey solution with our warranty process. You can select NVRs ranging from 16 channels all the way up to 256. They do come with different bundle licenses. So depending on the model you select, it's going to come with licenses included with the server. And everything has been tested, configured, and programmed to work with our software. So you don't really have to worry about testing the hardware or operating system with our standalone servers. And finally, when it comes to support, you'll be able to deal everything directly with us. So those are some of the advantages of working with the standalone server. There's also flexibility with the software. So depending on your project requirements, you might decide to go one with or the other. And let's go ahead and review what are some of the different options that you have within each category. So within the standalone servers, we do have a lot of alternatives. And this chart, you'll see actually all of our standalone NVR options. That's everything within our home office, remote office selection. So anything that you want to use, for example, within our DNRs, ENRs, or mobile transportation NVRs, those are Linux-based. We will only be focusing today on the GNRs and INRs, which are Windows-based and use our NVR3 corporate edition. So this is our top line of NVRs, and this is what we will be introducing today. We do have different options, as I mentioned before, anything ranging from 16 channels all the way to 256. And then depending on your particular requirements, we have different form factors, tower standalone NVRs, rack-mounted NVRs. We have our flagship NVR, for example, the INR 470, currently supports up to 200 channels. It has dual power redundancy. It has dual operating system redundancy as well. It supports RAID 5, RAID 6, RAID 60 as well. It comes with warranty support as well from Dell, which is our hardware partner supplier on this server. And it comes with all of the benefits of the NVR3 corporate. So anything between the 16-channel and the INR 470, it's what we have here in our GNR and INR series. And depending on your hardware-specific needs, then you'll be able to select from these NVRs. Now, when it comes to the software NVR, you actually have two options. You can go with the enterprise or the corporate, which is the highest level of NVR selection that we have. Some of the differences you'll see here on this chart is that the NVR3 corporate has access to analytics, additional integrations with point of sales, access control, extended devices, and it also has additional features with the mobile client app. So if you missed our early morning session today, we did cover some of these advanced features, but we will be putting this recording on our website, and we will be hosting future sessions as well, in which we will introduce these features as well if you want to learn more about those advanced capabilities. Today, we will focus only on the basics, and as Joe mentioned, we do have a demo site available on our website, which we will provide you towards the end of the presentation, so you can access it whenever you need. For now, let's jump ahead into the NVR3 corporate demo. So the very first thing that we want to know is how to log in. We do have different options when it comes to logging into our NVR. You can log in with the mobile client app, which we have available for both iOS and Android. You can log in with the NVR3 workstation that we have for Windows clients. And we also have a web client that can be launched with Internet Explorer. We do have an upcoming release later this year that will support other browsers as well, including Chrome, Safari, Firefox. So even from other operating systems, such as a Mac computer or Linux, you'll be able to access to the NVR through the browser of your selection. So now let's go ahead and jump directly into the NVR. So I talked a little bit about the different login options. I will be using the Workstation client, which provides us all the features and capabilities. So let's begin by giving a brief introduction of how to log in. So the idea is that when you first log in, you will have to input basic information, including the IP address, port, credentials, and you will be able to save this. If you want to have multiple sites saved on your computer, then you will be able to save this. So once you've logged in, this will take you to one of the 3 pages that we have here. We have the live view page, we have the playback, and we have the setup page. So these 3 pages are the ones that you will be using to navigate into the system, depending on what you want to do. We will be focusing today mainly on the live view and playback, just because those are the basic operations that you will use on a day-to-day basis, while on the setup, you will find everything from setup, installation, and administration. So let's take a look at some of the different panels that we have here on our live view page. So let me jump into a different view just as an example. The idea is that on the view panel right here, you have all the different views that you can select that have pre-recorded layouts in which you have selected cameras that you want to place. So for example, you can just select different layouts and you will automatically populate with those cameras you have saved. Those layouts or views can also contain different content such as websites, e-maps, which I will be introducing in just a little bit. You also have your camera panel in which you can go ahead and double click on the cameras, or you can decide to drag and drop to replace a camera into the layout. And finally, you have on the top, you have your layout panel. This is the place where you will actually be able to select what kind of layout or presentation you want to have. So you can use anything that has been predefined, or you can use one of my favorites, which is the 64-channel layout, in which you can decide if you want to go ahead and customize your layout to make it as flexible as you need. So for example, I can go ahead and create my own layouts and decide how I want to display my content. So it gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes to selecting your specific cameras that you want to be displaying. So creating a view is a very simple process. Let me go ahead and reset this. Let me go ahead and create a new view just to show you how everything works. So the idea is that by simply go ahead and create a view right here, you'll be able to put them on a different group. All of these different groups are basically folders in which you can group your different views. So for example, you can have your parking lot cameras, you can have your front entrance cameras, you can have, for example, cafeteria. Anything that you need when it comes to grouping cameras, you'll be able to create different folders for that. So in this case, let me go ahead and create a new group. I'm going to give this webinar example, and then I'm going to name this view 1. Now we can go ahead and repopulate this view with as many cameras as we need. And as you can see here, we have a couple of different maps. These maps allows us to link cameras and images into the same view. And the idea is to make it a little bit more intuitive for users to navigate through the system. So it's a very easy way to navigate. And let me show you, for example, let's save this view and let me jump into one of the maps right here. So here we have an overview map of our office in Irvine, California. I'm sorry, let me start with the overview right here. So the idea is that you can have an overview map. You can place different cameras, and those cameras you can actually point into the direction they're actually looking at, and you can double click at any point as well and get a preview of that camera. Then you can go ahead and take it one step further to even link other views into the same map. So the idea is that, for example, if I want to take a look at my parking lot cameras, I can go ahead and click on that, and then I get a preview of my parking lot cameras. And I can then, for example, either go back to my overview, or I can go ahead and jump into a different view, which in this case is my office format. So I can take it one step further, and let's say, for example, that I want to go ahead and add a view. Again, I'm going to put another view and call it webinar example 2, place it on my folder. And now I'm going to edit this view to make it with a couple of cameras on top of that. So let me go ahead and customize this so I can use probably half of the screen to put cameras here, and then I'm going to go ahead and place other cameras here, and this is going to be my view. So the idea is I can go ahead and save this view, and now every time I link it on the map, it's automatically going to populate with these cameras and this floor map. So this will make navigation a lot easier for you and your customers. You can take any screenshot and save it as a JPEG file, so you can take it from Google Maps, or if you have a layout of your floor plan already in hand, then you can use that. Well, no matter if it's on a PDF or something, you can go ahead and save it as a JPEG file.
Adrian, can I just add in one point on this, if you wouldn't mind? The real value behind using the maps, as Adrian's showing here, is the power of the NVR is in its simplicity. Once you create your maps, regardless if a person has 1 day of experience with our NVR or 30 years in the industry, it makes it very simple for them to get to where they need to get very quickly. In larger systems, especially where they have a couple hundred cameras down the side, to pull up the right cameras quickly in an emergency situation or in a forensic search can be a real challenge and very stressful. So by including the maps, we're literally 1 to 2 clicks away from any information that you'll need from our system, which for the customers that have deployed this, this is the benefit that they seem to like best from it. So again, its power is really in its simplicity to use, and the training time with the end users becomes very limited. And from our system integrators that are on the call, you know that a lot of our end users will call and say, hey, I haven't logged into the system in a while. How do I do this? Literally sitting in front of it for less than a couple minutes, all you'll have to do is click on something and it'll take you right where you need to be. So Adrian will show you a little bit more in regards to the live view, and thank you for letting me add that, Adrian.
Great input, Joe. Thank you. So as you actually start navigating, you might find yourself trying to actually get more details of any of the cameras. So for example, let's say that you actually want to see more details on this one in particular. You can always go ahead and double click on the cameras, and it will actually take you directly into the camera. On a full screen, you can always double click and it will take you back to the map that you were on, or whatever view you were on as well before. So let's say, for example, we're on one of these views, you can always go ahead, double click and enlarge it, and double click to go back. We do also have the capabilities of using digital zoom. So the idea is that you'll be able to take a further look and zoom in on a particular area that you want to get more details. Let me see if we have something on our parking lot cameras where we can actually grab a screenshot of a license plate just to show an example. So in this case, I'm going to show an example of what digital zoom looks like. In this case, we can just go ahead and use the picture-in-picture. If you can see here on the bottom right side, we have this red box. So this is how we can navigate, and we can use our mouse wheel to zoom in and zoom out and get more details. So this is a perfect example of how we can use the digital zoom. Now, we do have another feature, which is called optical zoom, in which if the camera supports it and it has an optical zoom capability, you can actually zoom in. And in this case, it's actually going to focus on the center of the image, and it's going to actually increase the focal length to make it the image larger. So in this case, we're doing optical zoom. The difference between the optical and digital is that whenever we're doing optical zoom, this is all that we're recording. While if we're doing digital zoom, then we're actually taking a screenshot basically and just enlarging it, just like if you were taking a screenshot with or a photo with your smartphone and then taking a look to see how you look. Then that will be comparable to digital zoom, while optical, it's actually physically moving the lens of the camera to take a further or a closer look at the scene. Now, there's a lot of benefits on using digital zoom, and as we've transitioned on the IP industry to have cameras with, for example, up to 12 megapixel resolution, then that really put us in a good position to actually take further use of the digital zoom capabilities. Now, let's say, for example, that we want to go ahead and take a screenshot of this. We can go ahead and right-click, and we have this capability right here in which we can take a snapshot, and it's automatically going to save it on a predefined folder. And we've recently introduced a feature as well to save a snapshot as, in which you can actually crop the image before you save it. And you can actually also add an overlay text. So for example, if you want to add the name of the incident or the license plate or the ID or license or driver's license number of the individual driving this vehicle, then you can add those and then select where you want to save it. So all of these features are pretty useful and again, very straightforward to use. So there's close to zero learning curve when it comes to using our NVR3. Another option, if you want to save an incident, for example, you can always go ahead and take a bookmark, create a bookmark to actually add details, and this will be saved on the NVR3. So the idea is that as you start investigating an incident and then you find evidence, for example, you know that this car was involved in car theft, for example, then you can actually go ahead and create some notes, like adding the license plate tag again, and this will be stored on the system. You can also put actually a range of time in which you want to save this bookmark, so later on you can access this information. So this is just to show some of the basic capabilities within Live View. The other great feature I normally like to showcase, it's the capability of adding the same camera multiple times and then review them on a different timeline. So by doing that, what we can increase is visibility in the case of an incident where we have a real-time activity that we need to monitor, but at the same time, we want to review footage at a different period of time. So for example, if we were trying to look at this camera maybe a day ago, we can go ahead and select that date. And at the same time, we can review this 5 minutes ago. For example, we know that this vehicle was around the same area yesterday, and the vehicle probably came into the property, early this morning. So we can try to find that as well, that from here. So this instant playback capability gives us a lot of flexibility to be able to find evidence without losing information about what's happening in real time. All right, so those are some of the basic features of the Live View. Like I said before, we do have a lot of other interesting features and could be potentially very useful for you and your team. So please feel free to review the recording of our webinar from earlier today if you were not able to attend to it, and we will be hosting other sessions in the future as well. If you do have questions so far, please post them on the Q&A section and we'll make sure to address them towards the end of the session. Now let's jump into the playback section so we can review at some of the different options that we have for searching evidence and exporting. So let me begin by doing one of the most popular features, which is the thumbnail search. So if you right-click, no matter on Live View or on Playback, and select the thumbnail search, what this will do is it will start creating automatically different thumbnails at different interval times. So for example, we could create one per day or one per hour, one every 10 seconds. We can start with whatever selection we need. In this case, let's say, for example, we're trying to find out at what time this vehicle came into the parking lot yesterday. So I'll go ahead and start with the 1 day interval and select this thumbnail. Then what we'll do is we'll start selecting the first thumbnail that we will see with the car on it, and then use our mouse wheel to change the interval. And then we'll continue to do this until we get to the 10-second interval time. So we'll go ahead and keep narrowing down this until we find our event. If we notice, we went from 1 day resolution and now we're all the way to 10 minutes. So we'll already narrow down a lot this and save a lot of time for your security staff or your customers to do investigations. So we are getting close to the 10 seconds. Now we're all the way to 1 minute. And again, all I'm doing right now is clicking on the first thumbnail that we see this vehicle and then using our mouse wheel to change the interval time. And now we've gotten to the point that we've narrowed this event all the way to 10 seconds. So what I'll do is I'll just select the first screenshot now or thumbnail where the vehicle is not at. so we can see as it pulls into the parking spot. So I'm just gonna go ahead and increase this, and we'll see this pretty fast. All right, so that's a good example of how thumbnail search works. Now we can do this with all cameras, no matter if it's an ACTi camera or a third-party camera. Speaking of third-party cameras, we do support multiple ways of you being able to add cameras onto our system that are not ACTi. So those can be added through OnBIF, which is a very common protocol in the industry to add cameras. So pretty much all newer cameras newer than 5 years ago pretty much will support this protocol. And if not, we do have a list of drivers of cameras that we've had integrated. I'll show you how to find that information from our website later on. And we do have also the option of adding cameras via the RTSP protocol, which is a very common protocol for video streaming. So all of those cameras can support this feature. And now let me show you a couple of different options that you have when it comes to reviewing footage. One of them is going to be using the traditional drag and drop on the time bar. Our time bar supports up to 64 channels of synchronized playback. And you can use basically drag and drop. And you can also use your mouse wheel to change the interval time here. So if we want to make our timeline a little bit longer, we can go ahead and scroll up with our mouse wheel, and it will change, for example, all the way to 1 day. So we can use anything between 10 minutes and 1 day. And all the motion events are going to be represented with the green bars here, and also the analytic events. So anything that is considered a motion or analytic is going to be displayed as a green bar. So that will indicate some kind of activity. The other way you can actually find events is using the calendar search. This will actually let you to input a specific date, time, and then you will be able to just go ahead and find any specific incident based on a time interval. Now, there's a couple of other advanced methods for searching evidence. So let me introduce you to a couple of them. So number one is the event search, in which we can go ahead and define events based on a filter. So for example, if we're trying to find motion detection events, network disconnections, analytics, then this is a great way of doing so. In this case, let me go ahead and uncheck some of this and try to see if we can find anything that has vehicle detection or face detection on it. Just to show an example of how this works. So let's say just people detection and car detection for now. And let's hit search, and it's automatically going to start searching events for this camera. We can select all of the cameras that we need as well. So for example, if we want to change our search and find more cameras, we can go ahead and do this. In this case, we do have another camera that does the vehicle detection. So in this case, we have the A44, which is one of our newer cameras, 12 megapixels with analytics that use machine learning, which is a subset of artificial intelligence. So we do have this that is capable of detecting vehicles as they come in. So this is one of the type of events you can search. Now, the type of analytics, we have covered a little bit of information in our previous session, but if you do want to learn more about that, we will have other sessions in the future talking a little bit more about that. Now, we do have another search method called Smart Search, which is somehow similar to motion detection, but this is after the event has occurred. So it's a motion detection only on playback. And the great thing about this is you can actually delimit which area you want to search for. So I can go ahead and select a specific area, and then I can choose an interval of time and hit search. And now I can go ahead and grab a cup of coffee. By the time I come back, I'm going to have a few results that are going to show me where I had motion activity only on that particular area. The benefit with that is, for example, if we know that there was some act of vandalism for that car, or if, for example, we have a warehouse and someone stole a box, if we have a cafeteria where there was an incident of students fighting, for example, in a dedicated area, then we can go ahead and select specific areas, and that will make search a lot easier. So at any point, you can go ahead and minimize this search and continue reviewing footage on your own, and the search will continue. So that's a lot of time you have to spend on your investigation on something else than just reviewing hours of footage. As you start getting events or search results, you'll actually be able to see those on a thumbnail here. You can go ahead and click on those, and you'll actually see those events that you can play through. So in this case, we have people walking through this area, and that's what triggered the motion. So that's just to show you a simple example of how to use the Smart Search. I can go ahead and stop it at any point and continue doing other functions within the playback. So those are the basic functions for searching events. Once we've found an event that we're actually interested in exporting and sharing, we can go ahead and right-click Mark Export Start, mark the end, and again, we could have multiple cameras on view at any given point. So I'm going to go ahead and add a couple more. So let me just exit the Smart Search, and now I can add a couple more cameras. And like I said, you can go ahead and start the export time. You can go ahead and then end it. And now all you got to do is click on Export Video, and it's going to bring you into the export dialog. We do have a few options when it comes to exporting. You can select an AVI file. This is a type of format, a video format that is very wide, popular, and pretty much will play on any device on the world. Now, there's some drawbacks with that, is that typically it takes a lot of space on your drive or thumb drive, whatever you're using to share it. And the other is that it's somehow easy to tamper. Nowadays, any kid with an iPad will be able to modify an AVI file. So it typically doesn't hold in court very well. So that's why we do have other options, including a RAW file, which is a proprietary option that basically requires a tool to be downloaded from our website. So that's one of the fastest way to export video. But the one I will highly recommend is our player format. The player format actually, has many of the benefits of RAW, being proprietary and very, very lightweight, but it does have an additional benefit that you can export up to 4 cameras at the same time. So simultaneously, you'll be able to have a single file with up to 4 devices showing video. And it does have a lot of similarities with our NVR3. So the idea is that if I go ahead and export a video footage, it's going to be a single executable file. So it's an exe, and then when you open it, it's going to have this interface, which I like to refer to as the mini NVR, just because it's basically showing a lot of the functionalities as the NVR3, including the digital zoom, the capability of enlarging a screenshot, and then you have all of the playback controls, and also the capability of speeding up or reducing the speed, and even changing the timeline. And not only that, but you can also go ahead and take screenshots and save them on a specific location, or even using the dewarping functions if you are using fisheye cameras. So because of that, this is one of the preferred methods. And again, this is something that normally you can go ahead and share with authorities, law enforcement, and it's something that it's normally a preferred option within end users.
Adrian, can I add just a couple points of input?
Sure.
So one of the biggest feedbacks that we get from our integrators and end users over the years is that when a customer needs to export video, it's a real challenge. They'll call the integrators, they'll call into the manufacturers. The focus of ACTi with our NVR3 is to make it simple. Again, 1 to 2 clicks, you should be able to actually export your information. Once you find your video, literally all you have to do is click on the little folder tab. Can you point to that, Adrian? Up top there? Click on that. Make sure the cameras are selected, the time and date. Set your location where you literally want to export the video, and hit apply. And within seconds, you can actually make a copy of the video. So From 19 years of experience in the industry, we went down from taking 4 to 5 hours to train people how to export, that literally it should be less than 30 seconds. And we can even create a help file that can step customers right through it, which would reduce the amount of calls coming into the integrators for assistance on this. As we've worked with customers, this has probably been one of the pieces that we get the most feedback on, is that was simple to use. So keep that in mind as you're talking to your customers. They do have to eventually get and copy video from their system. We want to make it simple for them to do. So thanks, Adrian.
Thank you, Joe. All right. So just to wrap up some of the functionalities of the NVR3, we've covered so far the basic features within live view, playback. We do have a lot more advanced features as well in functionalities and integrations that we could talk about, but we will leave those for other sessions. So if you do have any questions or anything that you would like to learn more about, please feel free to post those questions or comments on our Q&A section, and then we'll address them towards the end of the session. The last thing I want to leave you with when it comes to the NVR3, let's talk a little bit about how the system is so easy to configure and manage. And when it comes to adding devices, it's as simple as going to the device page, go ahead and do a hybrid search, and then scan for your cameras after you put your credentials. And then you can start adding your cameras. So when it comes to managing your system, even if you don't have a lot of experience, it's really easy to do it. You can just go ahead and add your cameras. You'll be able to see how many licenses you have available. If you go ahead and delete a camera, for example, you'll see the license count you have is going to increase automatically. So as we mentioned before, there's really no need for you to contact technical support to be able to replace a camera or swap it out. So that makes it a lot easier for you to manage your system and take control of it and ownership. So when it comes to user groups, we do have a lot of benefits, and it's really granular the way you can create your profiles. So user groups are actually more like profiles in which you can establish, for example, what kind of permissions you will have. So for example, if you have a new user group that you want to call security guards, then you'll be able to actually go ahead and select the cameras that you want to give them access. You'll be able to select granular permissions for each camera, and you want to have, for example, live view, operating PTC controls, going and setting up playback permissions or exporting. You can even take it one step further and set global permissions as well, and then on how much access they have for setup or to create bookmarks, receive notifications on their smartphone, and so on. So users are very granular, and we do also have integration with Active Directory, which is one of the forms of LDAP or authentication from Microsoft. So that makes you as well very flexible when it comes to IT teams to be able to integrate the system and give permissions without having to fall out of protocols, in which sometimes they do restrict how they assign users and passwords. So that gives you a lot of benefits when it comes to policy making and IT just overall management. So that's the only thing I wanted to highlight about the setup page. You can configure a lot of other things, including schedules, events, and all of your system settings from here. But again, you could learn more about those functionalities in upcoming webinars, or just reach out to us and we will be happy to walk you through those. So that's it for the live demo. Now let's go back into a couple of slides that we have left. Number one, it's going to be this. We do have this as a public demo access that you can get through our website. So you'll be able to get by clicking on this link that we will share this presentation later on, and you can access through the web browser or through the mobile client app. Now, working with ACTi, we do have a lot of tools as well that will help you to plan for your system. So if you click on our project planner banner that is on our main page, this will take you to a lot of different tools that we have available. Some of the ones I want to highlight is that, for example, if you're going to be using one of our standalone NVRs, for example, the INR 460, we do have a tool that will guide you through on selecting the proper disks that have been selected for storage. So all of the disks that we have here have been tested and guaranteed to work. Now, we also have other tools that will help you to plan for storage, bandwidth, selecting PC clients, and also making sure, for example, that the cameras that you currently have on your system, no matter if they're active or not, will work with our software. So all of these tools are available, and you can access them by going to ACTi.com and going into the project planner. All right, so the last thing I want to mention is when it comes to support, you can reach out to us also through our customer help desk, or you can contact our technical support office team. That's open 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time, and that's in case you don't want to talk to us directly. You can always go ahead and reach out to our technical support team in case you have additional questions. But if not, Joe Hudak, Joe McCarthy, and myself will be available to answer all of your questions. So that's the end of our presentations. Feel free to register in ACTi.com to receive invitations for the upcoming webinars. And now let's go ahead and jump into the Q&A section. Joe McCarthy, Joe Hudak, do you want to add some remarks while I'm taking a look at the Q&A?
Sure, yeah, I'll let Joe McCarthy go ahead first.
Thanks, Joe. Just want to thank everyone for joining us. We had a really good turnout for this session. We have some upcoming webinars that we're going to finalize the schedule for probably this afternoon. So be on the lookout for those. I think next week we're going to review our CMS or our, excuse me, our central management system, along with our video wall software. We're going to have another session for cloud recording, along with digital signage. So there are a lot of things out there that we didn't touch on today that will be discussed in upcoming webinars. So I will be either, if you're on my distribution group, my email, you'll see the schedule there, or I'll post it on LinkedIn. And I'm sure Adrian will also have it posted on our ACTi website. Thanks again for joining us. Adrian will be answering some questions, and I'll let Joe Hudak take it.
Great. Thanks, Joe. Great input. So 3 things I'll leave you with is that ACTi is big on feedback. If there's additional topics that you're interested in, contact us. Let us know. We can set up a public or a private web session for you. But we also appreciate feedback in regards to our products. We're really big in regards to enhancing features based on what the customers actually want, as opposed to a couple guys back in headquarters just making decisions for everybody else. So if there's something that you see that's a popular feature set or solution that your customers are looking for, contact us. Let us know. We're easy to work with in that respect. If anyone is interested in a free trial of the software that they saw today, contact Joe McCarthy, myself, or Adrian, and we'll help you actually download a free copy of the NVR software. We can help you get set up so that you can do demos and or test the software. And then the last thing, of course, is if you are working on any projects that need assistance, we're available to help with camera selections, hard drive sizing, picking the proper NVR solution from ACTi, and helping you secure the best pricing for your projects as well. So thank you for your time today. And Adrian, any final questions or comments you'd like to add, please do so. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe McCarthy, Joe Hudak, for your input. Let's review some of the questions that we had on the Q&A section. So we had a question about supporting analog cameras or IP only. So we do have encoders that can connect analog cameras and convert them into IP. So we do have a solution for that. We have options between 1 analog camera all the way to 16 encoders. So we do have, if you do require information for that, please feel free to contact us because we do have that. Now, when it comes to licensing, the license count, it is used per channel. So it's not per connection. So that means every connection that you get, so that means every camera that you add is only going to take one license. So no matter how many users you have viewing that, it will only take still one camera. So you have unlimited users, no matter which stream you're using, it's only going to take one camera. Now, when it comes to multi-imagers, now that's a little bit different, and that's because the multi-imagers, depending on the manufacturer, might take different licenses. We do actually have our multi-imager line. They do only take one license. So again, it all depends on the manufacturer and how we do the integration. But most manufacturers that are non-ACTi, if you want to bring them into our system, it will require for you to use per imager one license. So it's more like an encoder than actually a camera itself, because it does have 4 different modules and it does have those 4 cameras. But with ACTi multi-imagers, it's only going to take one license. Now, when it comes to map creations, we do have the capability of assigning maps or creating views and assigning those maps into a view, and only users that have permissions to those views will be able to see them. So that means that if you want to create a view that has a map and only allow some members of the security team to see it, you can customize permissions for that. So that is definitely possible. And when it comes to assign them also for private use, you do have the option of creating also your own private views that only you will be able to see them and manage them. And you can even take it one step further to actually define who has permissions for those, for creating those private views. So it's very granular and very flexible when it comes to creating permissions. So that's addressing the questions that we had when it comes to map creation. There's another question about how to adjust the frame rate for live view. So we do have the capability of doing a smart switch between 2 streams or 3 streams even as you go into the live view page. So the idea is that you can select which stream you want to use by default, but that's going to be shared across all users. So you cannot customize per user what stream they have access, but you can customize per views. So for example, if to some users you only want to give them access to a view that has the frame rate reduced by a different stream, you do have that capability. So again, it all comes down to how you create your views, but by default to a camera itself, you can only assign it as a global permission. And also had a question about which version of the NVR3 I use today in our demo. So we did use the latest version that is published on our website. That is going to be the NVR3 Corporate version 3.15.49. So that is the latest version on our website, and that's the one we've used. I do have another question about the capability of using the Workstation client, which is the one that we were using, for some of our other NVRs, the Linux-based. If you're not familiar with that, we do have different series, such as the ENR series or the ZNR series. The answer for that is no. The Workstation client only works for the NVR3. So for the Linux NVRs, we actually only have a web client option, or you can integrate those with the central management system as well whenever you have multiple sites, for example. But if not, the only option is going to be the web client or the mobile client app. I do see another question as well about the option to have multiple pictures that have the cameras laid on top of them. I'm sorry, I'm still trying to understand that question. It says, can you have multiple pictures that have the cameras laid on top of them? For example, pictures of building in a parking lot from the outside, and then a picture of each floor. So if you're referring to static pictures, you can save those as a JPEG file. and then you can load those and then actually place the cameras on top. So I'm assuming that's what you're referring, but you can't have that.
Adrian, let me jump in there as well. A lot of times we show that feature of having maps as the Google map of the outside, and then having pictures, and then on a multi-story building having the different stories as a different map, and to be able to jump between them. So if you're looking to do that, yeah, you can actually start with the outside of a building, and then you can have a picture with all of your different levels, and then you can quickly click to a floor, second floor, third floor, and have the software jump into that floor with a layout for that screen as well, and then jump back to the original map, or to jump to any other floor. We can custom design that so that it'll work that way. And we do have a lot of customers actually do that from a global perspective, and then to a granular perspective to a certain floor or an area of a floor. So absolutely.
All right, thank you for that additional input, Joe. So that's about the end of the questions that we had on the Q&A and the chat sections. We're kind of running out of time, but if you do have other questions, feel free to reach out to us. We can always go ahead and arrange another call. Joe Hudak and Joe McCarthy already kind of like gave the closing statements, so I'll leave it with that. So please join our next webinars next week if you want to learn more about our products. And once again, we appreciate your time and efforts to joining this session. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thanks, Adrian. Bye.